Statue City cruises by Hornblower. Makes sense.
I guess that's why they blew the horn. Well, Charles, in Snakes we trust.
Here we are, Jason. We survived September 11th as far as we know.
It's a very good thing. Well, it was a sad day, and you know, as I said in the tweet today, you are typically not a commentator with regard to September 11th, but I think everybody was very reflective yesterday and has a lot to say. We're in an interesting location right now, and you know, before I begin, Charles, I just want to remind everybody that we're not going to do the First Amendment Forum today. We're going to speak as openly as we hope we're able to, but in the event of any strikeage on the channel, I want to make sure that people know that I've created all these backup channels, co-host channels, so hopefully people will subscribe to Crowdsource The Truth 6 and David Hawkins Reverse CSI, John Cullen Investigates, of course John's channel, the Johnny Hoover channel, High Dive with Lee Stranahan. We got Manny Grossman's channel, we got the On the Trail of Son of Sam with Manny Grossman, Citizens Grand Jury, of course Sunday with Charles, where many people are watching us right now, and then the Freedom Watch channel. So I'm just constantly trying to make our existence here on YouTube a bit more resilient. And you know, before I have a funny story to tell you about today's poster, but before I do that, where are we here exactly?
We're down at Battery Park, and this is a monument. If you look at each of these, I would say they're light gray walls, and you look at the alphabetical name after name after name of people, and these are merely the people who gave their lives in service to we the people off the Atlantic coast of the United States of America. This is, you know, this is just from the F's to the H's in this particular one, but you'll see
Goodman up there.
There's a number of Goodmans. If we walk out a little bit, you'll see that there's a whole bunch more of these monuments. And I think what was so disgusting to me yesterday was the degree to which architects of the 2 decades long disaster had the nerve to show up as they did at 9/11.
At Ground Zero.
Ground Zero. You have, I mean, I used to cut the guy some slack. You know, I now would like to refer to him as the poor cousins in our extended family. And I mean,
the Bushes, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, they are. I mean, this George W. Bush, who reminds me of Curious George, the cartoon character, the little.
Somebody you know?
No. The little children's book, but getting up there and on really a day when he should be hanging, all of those three, the families, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas, they should be at home in the basement in shame. There we have Lady Liberty, and in the same week that we learn that Joe Biden killed a family
in Afghanistan,
Afghanistan, killed a family, falsely claimed that he got 2 terrorists that were on lists, and that was absolutely not the case. In the same week that he did that,
What's this guy yelling
he's
about?
advertising his snakes.
Well, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but let's just let everybody know what's going on. There's a giant python over there that this little kid is petting. I think the python could crush that kid. And this dude is adhering to the "In Snakes We Trust."
Right.
That's what we had on display yesterday in Snakes We Trust.
Snakes not on a plane. But
Right.
in the very week, or day almost, that we had that spectacle, we also learned that at some museum or another, they slapped I believe it's a publicly...
Oh, it's the National Archives.
Yeah, the National Archives has slapped trigger warnings on the Constitution.
Hate speech.
Yeah.
In there.
You know, there's the only good thing, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, the only good thing about this recent decision that by the resident, not the president, the resident of the White House.
Park Police texting.
The resident that federal employees and others have to get the jab, and in the case of military forces have to get it quickly, is that perhaps that will accelerate reduction in employment in the public sector, perhaps. Unfortunately, it certainly will accelerate reduction of employment in the crucial private sector,
Right.
where many people are, I think, already suffering from this boneheads, blatantly unconstitutional. Let's slow down. Blatantly unconstitutional. I just don't want to be right.
The order, yeah. Well, I saw a bit of literally ingenious crowdsourced knowledge on Twitter. I forget this woman's name. I don't even know who she is. Just somebody I follow. She's an influencer, kind of conservative black woman. She said, "Why are they forcing all healthcare workers? Why are they firing unvaccinated healthcare workers? Why not just have them care for unvaccinated patients?"
That's exactly
And I
right.
said, "Wait a minute. That's actually an excellent idea. Why don't you,
Right.
if this were a serious thing, and the people addressing it were serious, they would say, you know what? Oh, I can't even say what I'm going to say because we'll get thrown off of YouTube." But
So again, there's Lady Liberty.
on Wednesday, we could talk some more, Charles, on the First Amendment Forum about the things we really want to say, and people can tune into that on Subscribestar and Patreon. Yeah, we had a good shot of the Statue of Liberty. It's really impressive how...
And the Staten Island Ferry's over there, I think. And there you have a large catamaran.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
And is that a blimp up there?
Yes, it is. I don't know. I like blimps. I don't know that I've ever been in one, but
Well, there was one standing on stage next to Bill Clinton. Yeah.
was that Chris Christie?
No, that was
Oh,
Hillary.
Hillary. Well,
At least she stood up.
Charles, the movie I've selected today, and this is interesting because, we didn't really have an idea, and we sort of went to bed, and I just woke up and thought of this because people really enjoy these walks.
Sure.
I think it's a good format for a talk show because even if people aren't interested in what we're saying, they can sort of see the city unfolding behind them. We have some kind of park police.
No, I think Secret Service probably.
Something. But so the thing that maybe people didn't immediately notice, Charles, first of all, is that you are walking the tightrope here in today's image. Did you see this movie, The Walk?
No.
Oh, really?
Absolutely not.
Oh, but it's a good movie. It's about some French guy.
I know what the movie's about.
It's
yeah.
a true story. Well, I have an interesting story for you about the movie.
Okay.
We've spoken a lot. I mean, maybe not in too much detail, but we've spoken a lot. What the hell is this? Castle Clinton.
It's a national park. And we
You gotta have tickets.
Yeah, we're not going to.
Anyway, we've spoken a lot, although not in too much detail, about my Hollywood career. The biggest movie I've worked on was Spider-Man.
What was that about?
It's about this kid gets bit by a spider, etc.
I think I've heard of that one.
But one of the guys who I met on that film, the unit production manager, I won't use his name. His family is famous in Hollywood, not like actors, but like his dad is a cinematographer.
Right.
His uncle. So there's a lot of nepotism in Hollywood, and I don't disparage this guy. He actually, very nice. I never got to know him that well personally, but he's one of the very few people in Hollywood who ever dealt straight with me, and I really like him for that. So about a year after Spider-Man was complete, he calls me up, and he had heard about this horror movie that I was the cinematographer on, and he's now an executive at Sony, producing some new movie. Come on over to my office. I want to see this 3D movie that you shot, because we're doing a low-budget movie, and we want to evaluate your 21st century 3D system for it. So I'm really excited. This is the break that I need.
Right.
I go over to Sony to meet a guy who's, essentially
Big.
a friend of mine. He's got this big, giant Sony TV in his office, 3D. This was 2010 or 11, so 3D TVs were new. And Sony was using electronic glasses. So they, at the first outset of these 3D TVs, they tried to retrofit previous models with special glasses. The one that I have is the last generation 3D TV, where all the 3D technology is built into the TV, and it just uses the same kind of glasses you use at the movie theater. So I get to Matt's office, I get to this guy's office, people would be able to figure out who he is. I said he's the unit production manager on Spider-Man. I'm not saying anything bad about him, he's a great guy. I get to his office, we put the Blu-ray disc in, and he's looking at it, and he's like, I don't know, it doesn't look that good. And I said, I agree, but I think something's wrong with the glasses. I don't think the TV is working right. And he said, no, I was just watching 3D stuff on it before you came in here. And so basically he was like, thanks, the meeting's over, get out. And I was just like, man.
That sucks.
Very disappointing. So then about 2 or 3 years later, I was having lunch with my friend who I told you and the audience last week has recently suffered
Oh,
a
right.
brain tumor, and I was having lunch with him, and Matt comes up to the table at the tennis club, and he's like, Jason?
Who?
And I said, hey, Matt. And
Now
he's
you've
like,
done it
oh,
again.
man. He's like, I thought it was you. I had to come over and tell you. You were right. That TV in my office was broken. The glasses weren't working. And I was like, I knew that, but I mean, I can't sit there and argue with the Sony executive that his Sony product isn't working. And I said, by the way, what was the movie? And he said, oh, it was that movie The Walk with Robert
Oh, man.
Zemeckis.
So
And, oh man is right. Robert Zemeckis directed Forrest Gump and
I
Back
know.
to the Future. And I mean, I would have been in there like his right-hand man.
Well, we wouldn't have had Crowdsource the Truth.
Probably would now, because all of Hollywood is basically out of business. But I was literally crushed by that bit of news. And there are 2 or 3 other stories like that in Hollywood that sort of led to the untimely demise of my Hollywood career. But
Well-
here we are, Charles, at the base, essentially, of the New World Order Tower.
Yeah, well, actually, if you think about where we are, you're looking north now at what's that called? Liberty Tower or Liberty Plaza or what's it called?
Well,
Freedom Tower.
Freedom Tower, right.
So everything that you see to the left is new after 9/11, isn't that right?
Well, I know they really developed Battery Park a
So-
lot. I hadn't spent too much time. I mean, that's not new. Oh, to the left, yeah.
Left being this side.
Right, that left. I thought you meant if you're coming from the other
Yeah.
direction.
Whatever. But you know, this has nothing in common with, let's say, Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue, traditional old line Manhattan. I mean, this could be in any major city that has a waterfront. You could have something like
It's
this.
quite nice down here,
It's
actually.
very nice, actually. And save for the fact that there are very few restaurants and shops.
Well, and it's hard to get a cab and stuff. I mean, it's a certain...
Who does that anymore?
Oh, wow, wait a minute. Look, there's that Ferrari station wagon that I think I saw yesterday.
Want it?
I wouldn't get that if I was going to buy a Ferrari, but, I mean, if you're buying, sure, I'll take one.
So this is called Little West Street. Huh. And First Place. I've never even heard of that.
Who's on first place, Charles?
Yeah, and what's this
Now,
guy?
wait a minute. What do we have here?
It's let's be careful. I don't think you want to walk on it.
Oh, well, it's some sort of art that seems to be maybe perspective distorting. Like, does this look 3D if we stand in the right spot or something?
I think
Thank you.
20 stories for 20 years since 9/11. Huh.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well.
Hey,
How are you?
Yesterday? I'm well.
Where?
With the
I
news?
feel like there must be
No.
some significance
Okay.
to this.
Yes,
Are we mic'd
sir.
up?
Yes, sir.
With him.
What we're trying to do is we're on a mission of love, unity. We're involved in a podcast, a charity podcast for 9/11.
Do you want to put it on?
I'm good.
Oh, and basically, my name's Nils Jorgensen. I'm a retired fire lieutenant. I have leukemia.
Sorry to hear
In the
that.
building on 9/11.
Yes, sir. But
So
I'm staying
sorry.
ahead of it. No, it's okay. Don't be sorry. I'm blessed. I'm sorry for the guys that didn't have as lucky outcome as I did. Got sick in 2011, real rare and advanced leukemia, and fought for my life. Then I came out of the hospital, couldn't get my hospital bills paid because at that time we didn't have any coverage. So I'm on a mission. This is my best friend John, who I grew up with in Staten Island, New York, and he died that morning responding bravely, and as many of my other friends did. So I wanted to pay it back, pay it forward, and I got involved in this charity podcast. It's called 20for20podcast.com, and we're trying to get a bunch of awareness for a beautiful foundation called the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is a gentleman ran right out of that tunnel 20 years ago, Stephen Siller. And he was a fellow firefighter of mine, 5 children and a wife, and he was off duty. I was off duty. I went in as well. I went home. He didn't. And I want to bring awareness to the foundation that now in his name builds a home for every killed in action military service person in our country, every first responder in our country that's killed, and any very seriously wounded responder or military will be built a smart home. So just want to bring some awareness to them, and one of my main goals is on 9/12/2001. This is the West Side Highway, and lined up on either side. We're on the south end right now, and on the north end past the tower, there was thousands and thousands of people from around the world who lined up
Right.
with flags and with signs, and they were from every walk of life. But the one common denominator was there was love, there was unity, there was just this sense of everybody was so sad at one point because of what happened, but they were happy and they were relieved because they survived, and then they saw America at its best. Strangers running in to help strangers, strangers who had just died helping strangers. And now I'm old, now I'm sick, and I'm also an Army veteran, and it breaks my heart to see what's going on in the country. You know, I'm a child of an immigrant. My grandfather, named after Grandpa Nils, was from Denmark. My father's right over there.
Ah.
That beautiful 82-year-old guy.
He's
34.
looking well.
He's doing all right. He's a retired fireman. He's had 4 different cancers, 6
Oh my
different
God.
heart operations, and he's still with me. And
Oh my God,
he,
this is such a dangerous
yeah,
job.
it
I don't
is,
think
it
people
is.
really appreciate you guys
well,
enough.
I think a lot of people appreciate us, but I think there's a lot of people that are quick to criticize us. You know, we get pensions, we get paid, but
You're risking your life.
I do not feel the least bit guilty about the pension I get because I put myself at risk a lot, and not even to the risk that some of my friends did. They gave their lives, you know. So just I want to bring back that spirit of 9/12. I want to just say, hey, you know, let's have dialogue. Let's stop fighting and pointing fingers and screaming at each other.
What's that bracelet?
This is for my friend John Shark. This gentleman here, he was from Engine 201, and beautiful soul. Died that morning, and this is his never forget bracelet with his name. 9/11/01 FDMY Engine Company 201, which is command, and this is for my children. This is my youngest daughter. She was born in May of 2002, and I came home 4 days after the worst event in the world. And my wife let me know that she was pregnant, and it was a beautiful reception, right, to hear that. But the sad part about it was John didn't go home. He was dead. His wife was also pregnant, and John Jr. was born 3 days before my little beautiful Catherine. And this most wonderful event of the birth of my child was shrouded in guilt, because the same guilt that I was crushed with not dying with my friends. I got there a little too late. I was off duty. Got there just as the second tower came down, and I still feel guilty. And when I look at my beautiful little daughter, I just wished her well. This morning she was heading back to college to write a paper. And after thinking how blessed I was to have her and how much I love her, my next thought was, John's son is somewhere right now and John's not there to hug him. So I just want people to, maybe we can, with this little beautiful mural here and the podcast and the messages, we could just say, hey, you know, just be a little kinder, a little softer, a little gentler. Just try to be a little more patient with people, patient with each other, you know. And you know, I say this to my kids, and I have a faith, but I don't push it on people, right? I don't feel because I have faith that anyone else has to. But what I say to my kids is, look up from the phone, look up at the people in front of you, and look up and be thankful to whoever it is created you, for your life, for every breath, for every chance you get to disagree with somebody. That's a blessing, right? I mean, we take a lot of stuff for granted. The one thing that hurts me the most, though, is there's a lot of people in this country that haven't really done so much for anyone else. But the guys like John and these other brave souls, they did so much, and they asked for nothing back.
They gave everything.
They gave everything. And you know, the one thing about Johnny is, you can even see it in his card, he never stopped smiling, right? That was him, that big old goofy grin, John. And no matter the situation, he looked at the brighter side of everything. And you know, he would be the perfect guy right now to be in political office. The perfect guy to be leading, because he would just bring a sense of harmony to people. And that's really the problem right now in the leadership. People who are allegedly, supposedly leading across the board. And I don't care what political party, I don't care what network. If you take a little campfire, right, I give a fireman analogy. Take a little campfire that's smoldering and it's about to go out. You take a cup of gasoline and you throw it on it, and it'll explode into a conflagration. And then it'll start to dry down again. And then if you throw another cup of gas, it'll re-explode. And what's going on right now in the country and in the world is There's people that are willfully, purposefully throwing that gas on those campfires. And I won't lie, and I won't say that. I won't say that there's problems in America. I wouldn't lie and say it's a perfect country. It's a damn great country. No one is rushing to leave here. If you want to leave, I'll buy you the ticket. I'll drive you to the airport. I will. Right? My mom's an immigrant from Ireland. She came here at 16. My grandpa Nils came here at 22 years old from Denmark. $20 in his pocket. Didn't speak the language, and he died a successful man. And I just feel like if we stopped blaming everyone else for our own situations and just looked inside our souls, right, and just said, hey, how can I be better today? You know, I don't judge people by their facade, right, because a lot of facades are phony. You try to look deep into their soul and their actions, and I think if you can do that, if you're patient enough to just maybe speak to someone and get to know what they really mean, because, you know, I've judged books by their covers, and I've been way wrong a lot of times. That's just it. I want to just put a little love out there and just spread, like, hey, if we don't bring this back together, 20 years ago I couldn't see today.
Could you have imagined?
I couldn't have imagined, but I really didn't think I was going to live. Even in the recovery operation, it was dangerous. And when I was sick, I was truly fighting for my life. I really thought I was dying, and I was. And it's funny because I want empathy spread. And I had a couple of doctors initially had no empathy. They told me there was nothing wrong with me. My spleen is massive because I was probably drinking too much, because unfortunately some of our guys, we drank. I did a few times because of the horror. You're just going from shift to shift, and then you go down and volunteer to dig to bring the guys home quicker, then race over to a memorial, then race back to work for 24 hours. And then a couple of times you just get together with the guys and, hey, man, it felt good, you know, with your comrades, your brothers. But now, to be judged down the road when guys started to get sick and dismissed because it was coming into, oh no, they're getting sick, who's paying for it, right? But I had these unempathetic people first looking at me. But then I had this beautiful team of people with empathy, and they found out what was really wrong, and I was dying. And I take that gift of being spared from that, take it so seriously that if I don't do something to pay it back, you know, I have a really big credit card balance with God right now, and I need to pay that one down, pay the next one in advance. So I'll stop going on like this virus because I can do that. I'm Irish, and we like to talk.
Is there a website that you can?
There is. It's right over here. It's 2420podcast.com.
It's
and
hashtag 20for20.
yes, sir. And that's Iron Light Lab. Iron Light Labs is the sponsor. They're the creators.
And you're involved with it? Or?
Everything is going to go to charity. Everything's going to go to Tunnel to Towers and a couple of other 9/11 related charities. And we just want to spread some goodness and some love, and we're just hoping that the message gets out there. You know, I was a cop for 2 years first, and
wow, you've done everything.
And then I worked for the city EMS just prior to that, and I was in the Army. So I've done a few things.
When were you in the Army? Before?
1987, I did reserve duty. 1986, actually, I started 8 years of reserve duty, Army National Guard. Never saw combat, but, you know, did my best to do a little bit. You know, I love my life of service. I really enjoy it. I really like helping people a lot, and it was torn away. You know, when you have cancer, you can't ride a fire truck anymore.
You look very well right now.
Thank you. I need to lose about 50 pounds. My dad actually just reminded me of that.
You look great.
But thank you. But yeah, so I find like this is my little way maybe to give back, and But I was gonna say I'm going back. I veered off. But when I was a young rookie cop, I'll never forget this. I worked down in Alphabet City when it was overrun with the crack epidemic. And
Do you know Mike Cadella?
You know what? That sounds really familiar.
Yeah,
actually.
he was a detective in Alphabet City.
Yes, that sounds very, very familiar. Okay.
Sorry
there
to
was
interrupt.
No, that's great because there were some legendary cops down there.
We got to stay in touch.
I will.
Mike's been on the show.
Oh, okay. And I'd love to. And I'll never forget this. A legendary officer named Donnie Muldoon. He was down there during the riots, and when officers were assassinated, Rocco Laurie and John Foster white gentleman and a black gentleman, partners in a patrol car, best friends, assassinated because they represented good and evil killed them. So I got a hold of some bad guy who just did a robbery, and we were kind of struggling. And, I had one handcuff on him, and I couldn't get the second handcuff on him. And I gave a quick chirp on the radio. I didn't want the cavalry coming. You know, if you give it 10-13, that means everyone's showing up because you're in a real bad way. But I was embarrassed. I'm like, I think I can handle this. So I gave it 1085, which means maybe anybody in the area kind of give me some help here. So Donnie showed up, a couple of older officers, and he hit this guy because the guy was struggling. And in my being naive and brand new, he was reaching around for my gun, and I didn't even realize it.
Wow.
So Donnie hit him hard, knocked him down, and then he cuffed him. And then he picked him up, and the guy kept struggling, and he hit him again. And he said, "Kid, where you from?" I said, "Sir, I'm from Staten Island." He said, "Well, this isn't friggin' Staten Island. This is a war zone right now." And he said, "You have to understand something." He goes, "If you come down here thinking you're going to save the world, you're in for a long career." He says, "But try to save some people, try to help some people and make a little difference, but you're not going to get through to all of them." And I realized that, and he says, "You have to get a little tougher, you're going to get dead." There's never been a cop that I've come across in my life or any responder that said, "I'm going to go out and kill someone tonight." Never. Now, I'm not going to lie and say every person in the military and responder world's a great person, but I will say this: the best human beings that I have ever encountered, some of them, I can't say it's exclusive. They wear bulletproof vests, they wear fire gear, they wear stethoscopes, they wear flak vests, and they wear military helmets because they're in a common job. They put their lives on the line. They're selfless. They will die for you and I right now. Give up every single of their tomorrows so we can finish out today. There was a beautiful young Marine a couple of weeks ago who was photographed holding a little Afghani child in her arms. And she said, "I have my dream job." And she was smiling, and the baby was smiling because the baby was protected by a stranger. And that beautiful young Marine, and shame on me for not knowing her name because I will know it. I've just been running crazy lately. She said, "I have my dream job," not knowing she was going to die 2 days later. That's my hero because she was an E1, military pay grade 1, which just means you're brand new. But right now, it could be just off by a few dollars. They make about $21,000 a year.
What?
22. But they don't work 8 hours a day. They work 18. They work 20. So
That's
that
not
beautiful
right.
young Marine passed away making about $5 an hour. But you know what she did? She made a difference. That little Afghani girl, hopefully one day I'll see that picture and say, somebody rescued me, somebody saved me. And they gave up their life in the process. We're quick to judge them sometimes. They do make mistakes because they're human. You and I are human. But the difference between you and I'm retired now, and you're a civilian, and I don't mean that condescendingly. The decisions we make normally are not have to be made and completed and executed in 1 second. Theirs, every day, sometimes a couple times an hour.
Yeah.
Some pretty heavy stuff to carry around. You know, one of my dear friends, one of the greatest cops you could ever meet. He's a Jersey State Trooper. He's that guy that you want showing up to your car accident or your really bad moment in life, right? Professional. He'll die for you. He's the type of guy when someone dies or gets injured on his watch, he'll go visit that family next day to see if they're okay. He doesn't have to. He goes on his own time. But he recently said to me, "I'm taking a desk job." Now this was an NYPD guy for his first 5 years and then continued on to Jersey State Police. And he said, "I'm taking a desk job." And I said, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you sick?" He said, "No, I can't do it anymore." I said, "You can't do what?" He said, "You're a great cop. you love it. This is your life, your soul. He goes, it was. I said, what do you mean it was? He said, I'm tired of getting cursed at and spit at, and having cups of coffee thrown out the window at me and told to go stick myself. He said, I didn't sign up for that. I got 7 years left, and I don't want to lose everything I've invested and put in because I have a young family. I don't blame this guy.
Right.
But you know what, sir? The one thing that just really amazes me and impresses the crap out of me is there's still people signing up for the NYPD exam. They make $39,000 a year. You and I are standing right now in one of the most expensive zip codes on the planet. A cop can't even afford to have lunch down here, or a fireman, or a medic, nurse, right? It's just the way things are. But how the heck would someone who knows they're going to get abused, who know they're going to be in danger, they're going to have urine thrown at them, feces, bricks off of buildings, right? There was a cop when I was a rookie in 1989. Class before me in 88, he had the back of his head torn off with a bucket of cement, thrown off a 6-story tower because they wanted to scare us and keep us off the block. They weren't going to keep us off the block. Well, from what I understand, I didn't know the man, and again, shame on me for not knowing his name. But what I understand, he's still in a rehab institute 33 years later because he's a vegetable. No one is ever going to tell his story. No one's ever going to do a news clip on that because it doesn't fit that narrative. But I can tell you this, those brave people that put on that equipment and go out there for $6 an hour in a war zone, or $18 or $16, $17 an hour here in New York City. I started back in the day, it was $12.25 an hour. If you made $11 an hour, you were entitled to welfare if you had a family. So we have rookie cops on patrol that were $1 away from public assistance. And they still went out there with a smile and they bravely served these people. The same people that ran into that building, cops and firefighters that day, they didn't matter to them. They didn't stop and say who's in there, who they vote for, or what they believe in, or what kind of clothes they wear, or just ran in. 20 years later, they're still doing it. They're still running in, you know. I mean, it's a different era now.
That's quite a story.
It's different, you know, it's a different generation, but there's still a brave warrior class that's doing it. And you know, as I'm standing here with this piece of art, West Side Highway's right here. About an hour ago, a procession of motorcycles, thousands and thousands of motorcycles, followed up by hundreds of police cars and fire trucks from around the country. They drove up from Washington, and they got here today to show that they haven't forgotten. So those aren't the people that I need to reach. They got it already, because they do it. It's just the people that maybe just don't really know what we do, or maybe they just have their doubts about what we do. But there's nothing wrong with walking up to a cop on patrol, or a couple of people inside their ambulance, or standing outside of it, or you know, folks on their fire truck. You can say hello, say what's your name, what exactly do you guys do, and we'd be glad to show you the equipment and the trucks, and you know, it's just, but we don't do that anymore. No one does that. You know, I was a police officer on patrol. I'd stop to play basketball sometimes with the kids, and they just thought it was the greatest thing ever. Remember, we stopped a fire truck one day. One of my best buddies, Bobby, he played for Indiana. He was a big dude, and I'm a fairly sized fella. I played football. So we stopped to throw a football around with these two young kids from the neighborhood. We worked in Brooklyn. And we're mixing it up. We're throwing passes, running pass plays. We're blocking. We're having a blast with these kids. So finally they say, hey, you guys play? You guys play? I said, yeah. He played for the Giants. I played for the Jets. Right? And he goes, what's your name? Back in the day, there was this famous player named Jumbo Elliott, right? So he goes, so I see them talking, laughing, and they figured out we were just busted on.
Yeah.
He goes, man, you ain't Jumbo Elliott, you're Dumbo Elliott. And I chased them up the street, grabbed the ball, you know. I said, I still got moves. But they loved it because they realized we were real.
People, right.
We were real.
Yeah, we've gone so far away
And
from
that's
that.
it. We veered so far away. No one talks anymore. People sit at the table and text each other across the table. Whole thing with the masks. No one smiles. No one looks at it anymore. And then if you do, they think there's something wrong with you. You know, I live in Tennessee now. I had to go away somewhere quiet, right? Because I loved Ireland. My mom's from there. I spent every summer on my grandma's farm, and it was just heaven. And then keep saying to myself, life's going full circle. I'm circling back to my top boots. I got cancer. Could last a little while longer, but I don't know. So I said, you know what? If I'm nearing that final approach, also I'm a student pilot, so I taught pilots. So if I'm nearing that possible final approach of life, I want to be somewhere where I can seek peace and I can seek solace and silence. You hear those horns, you don't hear those in Central Tennessee, Middle Tennessee.
Wow.
It's so soothing for my soul. The one thing I noticed, the difference down there, and this isn't a knock to New York. I love New York. I'm a Brooklyn boy. Born, raised that now. Got to try to cover that accent up down in Tennessee. They don't understand me down there sometimes. But anyway, the beautiful thing about Middle Tennessee, you still look at each other and they smile and they say, "How are you? Hello, how are you?" And you know they don't know you, but they still want to know, "How are you?" And I sound well and blessed. How are you? And then they might strike up a quick conversation, and then they'll wish you a blessed day, a great day. I like that. I really wish I could bring that here.
You are right now.
Well, thank you, and I mean that. I appreciate that's a high compliment, but I really wish I could bring that on a grand scale. Look at people. How are you? You know, when I drive back and forth, I still have family in New Jersey now and some in New York. You know, I'm an old guy. I got to stop to use the rest stops every probably hour and a half, right? 2 hours. I get a cup of coffee. And every time I get that cup of coffee, I pick this up from John Field, the Feel Good Foundation. He's the guy who got us the federal legislation to protect us now, right? He protected the protectors. Every morning when he buys a cup of coffee, pays for the cup of coffee for the person behind him. So I switched it around. I stole it from him, but I do something a little different. I pay the cashier, and I give him $5. And I say, "What 10? If I could swing it? This is for you." And they say, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "You buy yourself a cup of coffee, later on me." And I said, "One thing I want to ask. Say hello to someone, smile, and say, 'How are you?'" I said, "If you don't, I'm going to take my $5 back." And they usually say, "Yeah." So it's just these little random acts of kindness, and I realize that they just get contagious. You know, it's like holding a door, right? It's like you see people that hold the door, the next person holds it, but then sometimes someone lets the door just slam, and then that person lets it slam. So if we start doing that, maybe I don't know, maybe we could improve things. But I just feel like being an old guy now that if we can't bring back that little bit of harmony, that little bit of love, dignity, and respect for each other, before my full circle comes connected and completed, before my final approach actually happens and I see the threshold on the runway and I touch down, if we can't bring that back, we can't go on. I don't think there's a great future for the country, because when a house is divided, a house is weak. And when a house is weak, enemies, they know it before you do, and that's when they strike. They struck this place twice, 1993 and 2001. A gentleman that I was working with on 1993 bombing, I was in a company, ladder company 105. Beautiful fireman, and Henry Miller was my senior man, my wingman. The man who was responsible to protect me that day, because I was young and I was dumb and I didn't know what I was doing. And after the bombing, we looked around and we went, "Nah, they didn't do it right. They got it in the middle." He said if they got it in the corner, they would have dropped it to Canal Street. Fast forward to 2001, and he was just such a sweet guy, because you know when you're a new guy, they beat you up sometimes, not physically, but
every
metaphorically.
industry,
right? You gotta make your bones, right? You gotta prove it.
Testing you out.
Yeah. Because you know why? If you can't take it in a firehouse kitchen, you're definitely not making it on a fire ground. So anyway, 2001, Hank is senior man, and now he's got a new young charge under his wing. Beautiful young guy named Dennis Oberg Jr. who left his great career as an accountant, doing really well, working right down here. And I asked him, I said, "Dennis, why would you want to leave that?" He says, "Why did you do what you did?" I said, "I wanted to be my dad." He goes, "I want to be my dad." His dad was my lieutenant. The lieutenant who saved our on-duty crew that morning, the 114 truck right over there in Brooklyn. The sad, cruel irony is Henry Miller, who's protected me and was gladly protecting Dennis, they both died. Henry knew they were coming back, and they did. He died. Dennis Sr. had no idea that his son was dead, but he saved his own crew. They saw the building starting to come down, and they ran, and they dove under a truck. And when the dust settled, when they looked back 50 yards, there was a huge pile, 10 stories high. Jeez. And in that pile was my best friend John, and was his little son. Not little, but his young son. Dennis with Henry. And they all died together. There was one thing that encircled all of them. All of us. It was love. It was respect. It was putting yourself out there for strangers. Putting out a smile. Putting out a how are you. It's a lot less dangerous. Taking a bullet. Taking burning to death. Taking being crushed to death. Or blown up by the enemy for your fellow man. So if I can leave you with one thing, let us do good. Stay humble and kind. Just try to do something nice for a stranger because you'll make their day. And maybe we'll bring the country back. I really hope so.
You're an exceptional guy. I can't tell you how moving that was and what an honor it was to meet you.
Sir, right back at you.
Tell us again, do you have a card? I'd like to stay in touch with you.
I'll
Thank you.
connect all of us.
Thanks very much, Alex.
What's your name?
My name's Jason Goodman. The show is called Crowdsource the Truth
Okay, cool.
on
I've heard of you
YouTube.
guys. Yeah,
Really?
I
That's
haven't
great.
heard the name. No, I
And this is Charles Ortel.
a pleasure, sir. And
Sunday with Charles.
I hope
Nice
I
to
didn't
meet
come
you.
off patronizing, but
Not at all.
I feel like I really should have died. I was close to death, and my Irish mother-in-law, she's a beautiful woman. She went to church every day, and she, I saw her. I was praying to die that first night I came home. Praying, it was such pain. I couldn't do it. She smiled, and she used to call me her boyfriend because I can talk, as you can see. And we used to have a lot of conversations because she was so interested in everyone. Like she wanted to know you, and you felt so loved sitting with her. She was just incredible. Incredible human being. And it's life's busy in New York. They drive right over murals. That's okay. It's gonna happen. But yeah, my mother-in-law was just such a beautiful soul. And I saw her, and she's smiling. And I said, "Nan," we call her Nan. I said, "Nan, I'm ready. Bring me home. But I want to go. I can't do it. I'll go home." She just passed 6 months before me, and she suffered. She was in a coma. It was cruel. She didn't deserve it. She smiled. She always did. And she said, "No, not yet. My boyfriend, he's not ready." And I said, "No." I said, I'm good. And she goes, "No, you have those 3 kids. You have Yanni, my wife, our daughter. Go back." And she said, "But he's not ready. You have things to do." I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "I love you." And she just faded away smiling, laughing. And they retired me. They kicked me out. I begged to stay. I said, "This is my priesthood. Please do not make me get out." And they said, You can't stay. Because after 20 years, you're a liability. You're going to end up sick sometimes. I knew I was going to fight myself into remission, and I was in it. And they said, "No, we're sorry. We're liable now." So they cut you loose on a pension because it's cheaper.
Wow.
It never goes up, right? You're out. The pay thing stops, but if you stay on, you get increases, you get raises. So they retired me out. I begged, I cried. I literally went on my knees and I begged the doctor to please let me stay. This is what I do. So I'm sorry. And I searched. I was lost. I was wandering. I work as a stagehand now, local 52 here in town. Etsy, props, set dressing. We do the filming.
It's off the past year and a half.
It's really rough, and I had to lay low because of COVID because I could be in a bad way. So I've been my bosses that usually hire me are very kind and understanding. They were waiting for me to go back when I go back. And the thing is now, living in Tennessee, I can work in Nashville, and then I can hop up here for a crew. I have seniority built up over the years, so they're very flexible with that. And I'm older. I have a pension, so I don't need to crush myself as much as the young guys. But it's a great job. They treat me well, but I don't feel like I'm helping anyone. Right? I feel very unfulfilled.
But I think you're helping people now with what you're saying.
And I prayed for. It's funny you say that because I prayed. I said, God, please just give me something where I can feel like I'm making a freaking difference. And all of a sudden, this just came about quickly, and I'm like, whoa. He answers pretty quick.
To the right people, I think.
Well, I don't know. And I said, when we started this project, and Iron Light, reached out, and I said, why me? He said, well, because you were there. I said, but yeah, I don't have any skills. I've never done this. I worked on a TV show, Rescue Me. I was lucky enough to drive the fire truck for Dennis Leary. It's a show about 9/11.
He's a nice guy.
He's a great guy.
A lot taller than he looks on
Great
television.
guy. He's tall. He's cool. He's a character.
But is he smoking again? Because he's always saying he's not smoking, and I would see him pulling a cigarette here and
I
there.
don't want to get in trouble. Snitches get stitches, but I think he might still be sneaking a little. But Dennis is a character, and yeah, he did a show about us. And guy Terry Quinn, one of his best friends, was the producer. Terry was kind enough to give me a job driving a truck. And Dennis, great, does tons of stuff for fire department causes. Specifically equipping departments that don't have what they want. New Orleans after Katrina, they wouldn't rebuild the firehouses. Their own government, Dennis did, built them. So we went down there and we labored. Yeah, we labored. We volunteered for weeks. Bobby Burke, who was on the show, was a famous New York actor, was down here with Bobby for weeks, like laboring. The greatest guys ever. And it was fun. The show was great. It was a blast. I mean, we were getting paid to pretend to be who we were and drive fire trucks at 50 miles an hour. And that was another job I would have done for free. Right. I wouldn't tell Dennis that. Wow. But I just feel like I was unfulfilled. And then all of a sudden this project came around. And I said, wait a minute, I can tell these stories of these people that are really hurting and feeling forgotten and help get awareness from tunnel to towers, the greatest foundations ever formed. And I'm a volunteer, but still, I feel like they're, God, I feel so fulfilled, So I'm hoping. Maybe this will keep going. Maybe we could do it every 9/11.
And you were a lieutenant when you left the department?
I was lucky enough to promote to lieutenant. It was a very hard test. Studied for 4 years. I'm not the greatest student. It's a really difficult exam. There's a stack of manuals as high almost to my waist when it comes to guys now, and.
Yeah, you can tell.
The police call us the Department of Noisemakers.
But is it a parade of trucks or is it an emergency?
It sounds like a response. Yeah, this is 10 and 10. These were the guys across the street from 9/11.
Well, Lieutenant Jorgensen, it really has been a pleasure to meet you,
sir. My honor.
Tell us again the charity. People can go to the website.
I wish I was with those guys right now. It's called 20for20podcast.com. It's 20 podcast.com. It's sponsored by Iron Light Labs, which is producing it. And it's basically a volunteer charity, just to get some good stories out there, good messages, and to raise some awareness for Tunnel to Towers and some other great 9/11 based charities. And we're just hoping to do some good.
I'm going to stay in touch with you. I want to do whatever I can to help you.
Sir,
thank you very much.
God bless you. I really appreciate it.
Get home
Thank
safe.
you for everything that you've done.
I do it for free. Just don't tell Bloomberg.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Amazing. There it is, Charles. Wow. What a thing, I mean, boy, you meet somebody like that, and I feel like I need to really improve myself.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories. For all those, we've done a whole bunch of loudmouth rallies, BLM rallies, right? All these people are up there saying, remember that, frankly, I'm going to use the phrase, I don't give a shit, the bitch who was running for Congress. He got up there in Columbus Circle and said, I'm not running for Congress. Yeah. I'm running to tear this country down. Really? Where I come from, that's illegal. What you're talking about doing.
And she wouldn't go into that building if it was on fire. And that guy now, he's got cancer and lost his friends and everything. God, what a story.
It was riveting. And here we are, as I say, walking on ground around buildings that are brand new after September 11th. So you see what can be done in the mess that was left.
That's a nice moment between father
Oh,
and
yeah.
son, teaching him.
Oh,
to
I
ride the bike.
remember. With mine, was teaching him how to ride a dirt bike, motorbike, at that age.
But you got to start with this, though.
No, we started with that.
Luckily, that's totally safe.
Oh yeah. Well, with dirt bike, he had special, really heavy boots and different things to protect you if you fell.
Well, Charles, I'm sorry to have distracted from what
That's
you were
quite
telling
right.
us about when I saw that mural and started the
No, it was
conversation
great.
with
It was
Lieutenant
great.
Jorgensen, but this is how ADD helps me.
Well, I think the contrast between what these vultures were doing yesterday, preening in front of these crowds, it's all about them, their
I wanted
service.
to ask Lieutenant Jorgensen
you-
about that, but I didn't want to interrupt him.
Yeah, you knew I was going to cover it afterwards, but it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, that is a true public servant,
Yes.
right?
That guy
Bill-
should be running for some office.
Well, Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton is not a public servant. He's
No.
a misery merchant. He traffics in misery. He wants all those people, Pelosi and Schumer and Bush and Obama. They want life to be miserable. There's a stronger argument to have government work, or pretend to work, to alleviate the misery when the misery just gets worse and worse
Well,
and
it's
worse.
the Hegelian dialect that German philosopher Hegel spoke about. You create a problem, you offer the solution.
And then you don't solve it. You make it worse, and you blame it on somebody else. And then you get a book contract, and then you get whatever. But
Should we use this bridge? Nah, we'll just walk on.
let's walk up here.
We're getting right close to the. I was over there yesterday, but the whole memorial area.
Yeah, that's really moving.
And you can't go into the Winter Garden anymore, Charles, without
Really?
a vaccine passport.
You're kidding
Isn't
me.
that lame as hell?
It is. I think they pronounce that lame.
What?
I'm kidding. Lame, the French.
Lame. Oh, got it. Lame. I thought that was like gold underwear.
No.
So it's funny that he's worked with Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary was the police chief in Spider-Man.
Was he really?
One of the first guys I met on the production, and I was amazed at how nice he was to me.
Huh. This is. Well, actually, the first time we met was down here in
Yeah, that's right.
2017, and there's a library. There used to be a library in here, and I got down here early as usual to do some work in there, and then I went up to meet you.
We had a milestone today, Charles.
What's that?
I was 1 minute early.
I couldn't believe it. I figured my phone was broken. The clock must be broken. Very well done.
So that was a moving conversation.
It was.
It's kind of taken me out of my thought process of all the stuff I was angry about.
Well, I think in theory, in this country, we have civilian control over government, in theory.
Right.
Nice try. I mean, I don't think we do.
I agree.
I mean, I think we have to look at that collection of people. I was asked by our friend Katya to try some answers about where I felt we were after 20 years on 9/11, and I did something that appeared on September 10th, I think, in Sputnik. And it's an instant reaction. I'm sure I'll have different reactions as time passes in the ensuing 12 months or so to really reflect on it. But it's very important to understand when you've lost. If you go around pretending you won,
right.
and in fact you've lost, you learn nothing, and if eventually you're going to lose even in an even more horrible fashion. I mean, we have to admit that there's some nice new buildings up, and yes, there were moments of advance, but for all the 20 years of blood, sweat, treasure, sacrifice,
Lost
heroes, people, and really, I mean, we're all going to die, so that's horrible, but people who live, as that gentleman mentioned, 33 years in a vegetative state, or after their battlefield injuries with loss of limb or mental affliction or both, you don't lightly commit troops to battle the way W did. I mean, the first people to hit of all the nations to go after did not seem most likely to go after all Afghanistan. I mean, it just didn't seem the most likely place to go. And I think, well, we may never have the conversation, but we need to have a conversation about why the United States, as now, for the moment anyway, so long as Biden doesn't destroy the industry, the United States was, when Biden got the keys to the White House, was the #1 energy producer on Earth.
Shut that down right away.
Well, we're still pretty strong, but back in the 70s, we were on our
lining up at the gas station.
well, we were on our backs. We were in deep trouble. Let's go up away from the
crisis, right? Wasn't there a OPEC something or other crisis, 1974 or something?
I'm wondering if we should even go in this way and up.
Sure.
Just to maybe show people. So we were in deep shit, and I don't like the fact that we basically kowtowed to Saudi Arabia and we protected the government.
I think we might be back. Hang on, let's just make sure real quick. Stay with us, everybody. Yeah, people are saying buffering, so.
Should we go back where we can?
No. We should be okay. It's just, you never know what might cause. I think we're back now.
So this crazy-ass professor is alleging that 9/11 was an attack against heterosexual society and capitalist society. That's what it was all about.
Why a capitalist I could buy because it's the World Trade Center and it's the United States,
was
but
just,
why heterosexual society?
Because
is there another country in the world that embraces the homosexual community more than the United States?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Who?
The Holland and
really?
Yeah. Many countries, but just this is a little bit not wearing much in the way of clothing.
Right. That's a treat for everybody. What's going on there?
Like, hey, I think I'll walk around in a swimsuit
with the booze.
And on the street. And here's
what could go wrong?
Here's the beggar.
It smells good over there.
Here's the beggar, white beggar, in front of us.
Anyway, so they said it was an assault on heterosexual capitalism.
These days, if you can get a teaching job,
that was a very heterosexual moment, by the way.
It was.
Walking by.
You can get a teaching job on the faculty. You can basically, the more outrageous thing you say, the more likely it is that you'll continue to get employed. To the point where you become Bernadette Dorn or whatever her name is.
Bernadine Dorn, right. Well, they just fired that Antifa guy because of, holy crap.
What?
Fired him because of James O'Keefe.
New York vet practice?
But this logo I saw yesterday, okay, well, this is for veterinary, but there was a fashion show for some app that was going to track your vaccine passport. It had a similar logo. Sorry, the heterosexual attack.
Right, so you have these we have a professor in quotes with crazy ideas, literally crazy ideas about what happened 20 years ago. And we had also, the release of heavily redacted materials that do show proof that somebody knew that senior Saudi royals, senior Saudi people were in close.
When you said that do show, I thought you were talking about Joe Biden and his new nickname was Dusho. That Dusho released some documents.
Exactly. Captain Queek, you mean?
Well, it shows these Saudi royals were involved, and we knew that from the 28 pages. The irony is John Cullen was talking about that on Friday, named the same names, and I feel like that release of information is just
go around
more distraction, useless nonsense that's not going to get us any closer to the answer.
Well, except you sit there and when you have a computer problem, let's say, when you have a problem in your apartment, let's say, just we don't need to specifically say what problem. The first thing you don't do is get in your car and go to Oregon and solve another problem.
Right.
I mean, we got attacked. We had to have known. I mean, that idiot Brennan Robert? What's the CIA guy? Brennan.
John Brennan.
John Brennan. That fucking moron.
Yeah.
CIA station chief converts
Jeddah.
to Wahhabi Islam from being Catholic, and
That's very unusual.
extremely unusual. And you're telling me that our CIA didn't have an inkling of what was going on? And then I can imagine. I mean, I wouldn't want the responsibility of being president at all, and certainly not in the middle of an unforeseen attack like that.
Unforeseen.
Right, exactly. Unforeseen attack. You're sitting there. You're up at Camp David or wherever they gathered, and you're sitting in a room and you're saying, okay, what do we do next? I mean, Ann Coulter wrote a column, and I don't know if when exactly, but it was around the time of the counterattack, saying, why don't we attack Canada? She has as much rationale to do that as to, and not much.
Actually, that would have been smarter, because look at what Justin Trudeau and all of them have been doing with this lab in Winnipeg.
And this looks really nice.
Liberty Bistro. It does.
Surprisingly nice for New York City. Is that your boat over there?
Mine's in the shop, Charles.
Oh, okay. I think actually, wasn't this the place
Well, in front
near
of
here?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, these tables where you don't have to be eating anything. I feel like we had an umbrella. Maybe they've changed the table since then.
Yeah. But we were right around here
Yeah.
somewhere, or maybe over there.
Right over, yeah, there's umbrellas over there. But this inside here is the winter garden that we're not allowed into anymore.
Which?
Because we're through the glass over there.
Uh-huh.
And Brookfield and everything. But now that we're second-class citizens, we're just simply not allowed in.
Huh. I thought it was because we're not, at least I'm not cool enough.
No way. As far as this place is concerned, you're among the coolest of the cool. This is the money joint. But look, it says mandatory. I thought I saw a sign on the other side that said you have to show your COVID passport.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm
Maybe it
wrong.
was a different establishment.
So Ann Coulter wants to attack
Yeah,
Canada.
but I mean, you have to learn from your mistakes. So we blew a lot of money, we wrecked a lot of lives. There are a lot of hurting people inside and outside this country because of our activities in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya. And you go back to Hillary Clinton testifying in quotes before Ron Johnson in an exasperated tone of voice saying, what difference at this point does it make anyway? And that's when you want to bring that guy back to life. Who was that guy in Back to School?
Rodney Dangerfield?
No. The guy,
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison. You want him to respond to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, what difference does it make? I'll tell you.
He was hilarious, Sam Kinison.
Especially in that scene, which I would bet was just spontaneous. I don't think there were any lines for that. I think it was just off the top of his head.
That's a cute little dog.
It is. You seem to like poodles.
This is like a Labradoodle or something, right? Golden Doodle. Right, there we go.
You got your next channel. Jason the Dog Whisperer.
Just talking to dogs. They're mostly a lot nicer than people.
Yeah. Some onion soup going on.
It looks like beautiful food at this place. What is this? This is PJ Clark's.
Oh yeah, that's good food. And I think if we make a right here, it'll be smooth sailing. We won't be too much noise, maybe.
But we've got the World Financial Center behind us there, Charles.
Right. I mean, this is a scene that was actually just a wreck. This area for how long I don't remember, but
years.
Yeah.
It kind of took a long time for them to build that abomination that is the new World Trade Center.
Right. So that materially you can come back, but the question is ideologically, are we fighting? Do we understand the ideology of the enemy, and do we understand the idiotology?
I don't even know who the enemy is.
Right. True. I mean, the extremely cynical part of me just does the whole so-called has-gets analysis. What did I has and what did I get? And
somebody parked their bike right there.
Prior to September 11th, 2001, most people did not assiduously use the internet and on their phone. And
You didn't even have smartphones really
Right.
until 2006.
so the notion that immature people with hormones raging, prone to do stupid things that will be embarrassing later in life, would do those stupid things, put them on in video,
TikTok
audio,
and everything.
whatever, and have it there, time immemorial, to be used against them later by people who want to leverage their power over you. The notion that the entire world that had access to this would willingly do this for free. They would be happy, or they'd even pay for the privilege to do this. And then you'd find yourself, I remember, anytime a senior government official addresses a problem by telling you, you don't need to worry about that.
Right, you better start
Exactly,
worrying.
you better start worrying. So when Obama started talking about, the news came out in whatever year it was, that every American's metadata.
Yeah, but don't worry, it's just metadata.
It's just metadata. Don't worry about that.
We're not in the air conditioning business, Charles.
Exactly.
Sounds like you might be.
Right. And so we're now in a situation where our government and people who can hack into our government, who may alternatively, at the behest of our government, can use a lot of personal data and business data, financial data, to ruin you.
They can make stuff up too.
And they can make stuff up as well.
And just put it into that same social media sphere and say it's true.
Right. So, part of me would say, looking at the last 20 years, everything that don't give me this argument about, look at all the disasters we've averted. I just don't want to hear that. Forget that. It does not work on me, because you didn't avert this disaster.
Right.
You created this one.
Correct.
And we're in a situation in the major countries where we spent a lot of time, too much time, too much money, too much blood at being Iraq and Afghanistan. We're in a situation there where definitely America's interests are far more impaired in 2021.
Yeah.
After the Biden bug out.
It's like undoubtable.
Right? Indubitable, as Jackie Gleason would say, or whatever.
Indubitably.
And so we're a lot worse off. And I would go back to square one and say, look, let's examine the various initiatives we tried, the security state, giving all this information to contractors, letting people get rich off that.
Now we have the medical security state.
Yeah, let's cease and desist with all that. You want my personal information? You got to pay for it. I'll use this system. You tell me how much it costs per month, then you tell me how much my information is worth.
Right.
And we'll settle up month by month. And I take gold, not cash. Now let's see, I don't think we want to go by that crane.
Crane?
The big crane right there?
Oh yeah. What, Charles, I just noticed for the first time yesterday these kind of vents on the World Trade Center that seem to open and close independently. I'm not really sure what function they carry out.
Let's get a little ways away from that. Yeah.
The ice cream truck? It's the real deal. It's very windy today.
Yeah, it's very windy in general down here. It's one of the things that I suspect architects don't yet have the kind of understanding they should have. When you put these buildings up, what does it do to the wind? How is wind shifted around?
It's channeling it at us. And
Yeah.
have you been up to the top of this World
Hell
Trade
no.
Center?
I will
went
not.
up there.
Oh no, not me. I did go to, after it went up, I went to Windows on the World early on. I remember
original
thinking anybody who would go up there was completely crazy.
Why?
Because the thing would,
I don't know. I was in there. I didn't notice that.
it wavered when I was there. So should we go around that way enough?
Sure. Yeah. Let's check out the memorial area.
Yeah.
So you think that there will be a future attempt to take down this building?
There's no question. No question. And I wanted actually to get in a little bit to some history. I'm
Sure.
doing a lot of work, and I don't fancy myself a September 11th expert, and I probably will not invest the time until I finish the book on other matters to really get to speed on. But one of the things that's relevant in the Clinton Foundation is the chain of events in 2001 after Bill moved into...
Whoa, I just almost walked into a tree. Let's stop doing that.
After Bill left the White House in disgrace, frankly.
Yeah.
And the truth...
With the furniture.
Well, and everyone focuses on Mark Rich and Pink is Green, and there are a lot more despicable, disgusting things that pardons, even than Mark Rich. I guess we got to go this way.
You don't want to go over there to the pools?
Well, we can't. We're not allowed in.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
It's open right here.
Okay. I thought you said we couldn't go in without a mask.
No,
Anyway.
that's in there.
Oh, okay. So when you look at the timeline, Louis Freeh, who we need to be doing
he's
a lot more work on him, but he leaves as director of the FBI June 25th, 2001. In April, I forget if it was April 1st, which would be fitting, George W. Bush allows the Chinese, without really paying much of a penalty, to force down spy planes that were in international waters, American spy planes, in I think April of 2001. By June 25th, Freeh, let's just stop here for a second, so I don't want to distract from the majesty. Freeh leaves and he's replaced by a guy called Thomas Picard. And Thomas Picard was a Democrat. He's the acting FBI, head of the FBI. He stays in there as, he was deputy director, he's acting, and then he stays till November 30th, 2001, after Louis Freeh goes in, not Louis Freeh, Mueller, September 4th.
Why don't they just make the deputy director the new director?
I don't know. But and in that time frame, the guy who had been leading a number of the different investigations that you've been focused on, original investigation into the 1993 bombing, Osama,
Ramsey Youssef, TWA
800, etc. That's a guy called John O'Neill, and they drummed him out. And there was a leak and it's alleged that Thomas Picard was responsible for it. They drummed John O'Neill out. And
what about Hansen? Where was Hansen?
Well, let me just finish on, I don't know about Hansen, but they drum him out, and this guy ends up, John O'Neill, as being in charge of security.
Oh, right.
And dies on 9/11.
Securicom, right?
I guess. I don't know if it was Securicom or not. But anyway, he dies on September 11th. And then Mueller's in September 4th. Bill Clinton is in, I believe he's in Australia when it happens.
Yes, Melbourne. He's at the Sheraton. David Hawkins and I have done a show about it. He signed a plate on September 11th that is just so conspicuous. It's almost like, here's my alibi. I wasn't even in the same continent.
And they had put in the Clinton Foundation false and materially misleading 990 for
Harbor, Sheraton. Port Douglaston, Sheraton.
Okay, in 2000, for 2000 that went in late on August 2001. And so this is a very crucial period. Let's come back to that in a second and focus on the beauty of this. I mean, this is really moving. I've been here when the water is not
running.
Not running. Look at the rainbow.
And this is the footprint of the original tower.
There's two of them.
One here, and then the one over. Where is it over there?
It'd be over. I think it's over there where you see the other people. Really moving.
But it's very strange how they have this almost skeletal. It almost looks like the wings of a bird or some kind of that whole Oculus thing.
It's a little weird.
Very weird. Very creepy.
I think the same person who did the Vietnam Memorial did this thing, and it's
Wasn't
really
it an artist that you've mentioned, like had that thing with the trees?
He's yelling. Yeah. But really very touching.
A personal friend of mine was killed in the building. He worked for Cantor Fitzgerald.
Sorry to hear that. And this is, I think these names are not alphabetical. These are.
See, that's the thing, because I was looking for his name and I couldn't find it.
Well, you have to know what part of the building the person was in.
Ah.
And he says number 11.
I see that now. Yeah.
And I think there's probably a guide to it somewhere that will help you figure that out. No, but this is. I mean, it doesn't bring these people back, and it doesn't really offset the enormous pain and loss.
Well, this guy was my age. His mother and father are still alive.
And you ask
I went to
yourself,
grade school.
you know, is this? Let's hope there isn't another American Civil War. I say that, and you know, probably with my luck, it'll start tomorrow, or it's already started. But let's hope. Some wars are resolved. There's a winner. There's a victor. In the case of World War II against Hitler, Hitler's the ideology in quotes, to dignify it with that kind of a name, the ideology that animated Hitler and the Nazis has by this time been, I think, utterly discredited. Has the ideology that animates political Islam, radical Islam, has that been utterly discredited? And I'd say the answer to that is absolutely not.
No, it seems stronger than ever with Joe Biden making the Taliban their own little air force.
Well, and Hillary Clinton saying, as she did on September 11th, that Trump supporters are bigger threats to America than
What
jihadis.
It's such an insult. Your eye is not remotely on the ball. That's like your house is on fire and someone's telling you, Charles, we need new carpet in the living room immediately.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you expect from Sun Shrew?
The fart of war.
Exactly. She's actually got a fiction book coming out. It's called,
Every book she's written is a fiction book.
exactly. But this is admittedly fiction.
Intentional fiction.
Yeah.
I see. What is that going to be about?
It's a stupid title. It's
How
amazing.
to destroy the world without really trying?
When I'm now working, it's funny, I don't only speak one language, barely, English, but I can write two different ways. I can write the kind of legal, banking and legal document that everything's in the passive voice and very cautious.
They got a dog.
Yeah.
Police dog.
And then I can also write, I think, in the active voice, the way you like to, the way good books are written,
Sorry.
that are fun to read. And so I've started doing that. And I know I'm using the word I a lot in this discussion, but I've waged a personal war on I in my book. I don't want every paragraph to be I. And you go and you look at Bill Clinton's book and Barack Obama, they have I-itis. I mean,
Right.
Every fucking paragraph begins with I. And most are,
Well, should we go up there? There's a bunch of stuff up there.
are we allowed to go up there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sure. So every paragraph is I. Everything's about him.
Actually, there is a new fence there that I think that's just to control the crowd. We can cross
Right, I
over
see it.
there.
So let's stay in the
Yeah.
actually. So
I-itis.
right, and you look at what happened there. Sandy Burglar. You've been to several presidential libraries or archives. I've been to
And the National Archives.
and you're told when you go there that stealing, even taking
Federal.
notes, bringing paper into certain archives is
Federal crime.
strictly prohibited. And going in and taking primary evidence, stuffing it down your pants when you previously served as the National Security Advisor of the United States of America, you can't say you didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. And here's Sandy Burglar doing that in 2002 and 2003, thinking that you're going to get away and nobody's going to figure out what you stole, because chances are, and I've been in projects like this trying to recover stuff that people thought they could destroy. On a big project, take for example something I'm very familiar with, the first investigation of the Clinton Foundation from 2001 to 2005. I was going through my notes this morning actually, and there's a very incriminating entry at the beginning of the project that says, we've just opened this project, there are many, many subpoenas, we expect there to be thousands of pages of documents, and we need special storage facilities and this and that. Well, when you go through the pages that are in the FBI vault, they don't add up to 1,000 pages. So obviously there are
like 5
thousands. Yeah,
pages.
no, there are 1,000 or so, or 900, but they say thousands.
They're all covered in black ink.
No, actually, a lot of them are redacted, but enough are not. But the point is, and the trap is here, on that particular morsel, is that January 2016, we know they definitely did open up an FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation. So, did they go back into history and look at the history the way they should have? it'll be simple to see.
Welcome to Liberty Park, Charles.
What's that?
I don't know. It's an object d'art, but it's like a fractured apple. I think. I don't know. It's the first.
It's
thing
probably a
that comes to mind
piece.
when I
We'll
see
see right there. It's a Koenig sphere.
Actually, you just reminded me of something that I wanted to talk to you about with regard to this edict that all cars will be electric by 2035. This sculpture stood as a symbol of world peace through world trade at the center of Austin J. Tobin, not to be confused with Jeffrey Toobin Plaza, between the Twin Towers. Oh yeah. Oh! That's why it's so contorted. Holy cow, I didn't realize that. So this is the thing that used to be there between the two buildings when you walked in, and now it's crushed.
Let's see if you can get further back like this from it.
Yeah. I did not realize that. I've seen this thing a few times and haven't looked at its sign.
You know, and again, to me, I mean, maybe it was in some ways just lucky that it did not suffer more damage.
Surprising.
It's
Well,
surprising.
the buildings imploded in their own footprint, almost as if
Go down this way?
controlled demolition. That's the mosque.
Oh, wow. That's the one that Pamela Geller was so upset about?
Yes. I think.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling.
No,
If
wait a minute. That's the St. Nicholas National Shrine.
No.
I thought there was a...
There is a mosque nearby, though.
Huh. Why'd they put a dome on it?
Who knows? Oh, look at that. World Trade Center Command, the Port Authority Police.
Yeah.
Jason, this is a first for me. I hadn't been up in here.
Oh, that's a really surprising and rare treat for me to be able to take you someplace in New York City that you've never been before. It's got to be new in order for that to happen.
There's Morton's,
The steakhouse?
I guess, or,
yeah.
or using the name.
There's a lot of really tall apartment buildings being built down here, Charles.
That's exactly right. And there's O'Hara's restaurant. I have a feeling it's not exactly a restaurant.
This is the Anne Frank tree, not to be confused with the Anne Frank house, which is in Amsterdam.
Or the Family Guy, what's his name? Stewie.
Peter Griffin.
No, Stewie was. What's that game you play where you're in a swimming pool and you're calling out for people to
Marco Polo?
Marco Polo. This is worse than playing Marco Polo with Anne Frank.
So this is reminiscent of the kind of the High Line.
Yeah.
Probably the same park
Probably.
designer. And then of course we have the that's the firehouse that
Wow.
343. That's his firehouse.
Wow. It's amazing that there are not more people down here.
Look, that guy is shining the polishing the monument or whatever. Yeah, and they have all the wreaths out there, I guess, for the firefighters who were killed. So Charles, not to change the topic, and it is kind of related because obviously the Middle East, oil, energy, all that, the economy is what makes the world go round. I saw a thing that said there is maybe it might have been just California, but they're going to have some law that by 2035, all cars
In California.
all new cars, no new cars with gas engines can be sold. And California is enough of a car market that, they had different emission standards and everything, but they ultimately just made all cars meet California emissions.
Right.
So it's likely that will change. They want to be they think they're leading the country by making these economy-crushing decisions. And there's a lot of people that are going to say, "Oh, Jason, shut up. We want a better environment, and electric cars are going to do it." And I want to give you a very specific example of how I don't think it is the best idea. And sometimes when you have people who don't know
Right.
anything about what they're suggesting and aren't
You're not picking
really
on Joe
deeply
Biden, are you?
knowledgeable, I'm thinking about a lot of things. Joe Biden trying to tell the army what to do with a military base. I'm thinking about a waitress, a cocktail waitress, trying to tell people what to do with big business.
Did you bring that up because we're in America now, a banana republic?
No. And I'm also just thinking about people who don't know anything about what's going on with what I do, trying to tell me what to do. But we're talking about making electric cars. Now that means radical changes to the companies that make the cars.
Right.
They're going to need batteries and lithium and stuff. So it's not like it's a magical, where do we get this lithium? What happens when you throw away the batteries from an old car, etc. And I'm really, as somebody who's worked on technology and had to deal with major shifts in industries and things like that, I am firmly convinced that we should acknowledge that we're in a transitional period where we want to reduce the reliance on burning things to make energy and have more long-term sustainable energy. But for right now, throughout the world, we have a very pervasive infrastructure of gasoline fueling stations that power basically every single vehicle that's around. And just setting an arbitrary cutoff date like that through regulation, you cannot drive innovation through regulation. It's got to be driven through the natural market. And as an owner of a hybrid car and someone who takes I pay very careful attention to how the car operates, how I can maximize its efficiency, how that model of car has evolved over the past 10 years. Rather than just saying gas cars are bad and we need electric cars, even though me as a person in Congress or the government knows nothing about cars, how they work, how electric cars work, how batteries work, what this change is going to be, etc. I think it is always better to allow innovation to drive it. And I found out last night about a very important innovation that feeds right into this. Now, when you were a kid, every single car,
You mean this morning?
used a carburetor.
Right.
And then in the 1970s, there was this great invention. I think it might have first come out in the Corvette.
A catalytic converter?
Electronic fuel injection.
Right.
And the purpose of that was to much more precisely control the mixture of fuel and air in the engine to create more power, greater efficiency, a more sophisticated engine, and it was a substantial breakthrough. But without going into too many details about how car engines work, it basically, it squirts a little gasoline in there, puts a little air in there, makes a spark, it explodes, then a valve opens and the exhaust goes out and the same thing happens again. So look, this guy's not even looking, he's coming right at you.
I was looking forward to the prospect of knocking him down.
So the innovation is this. Right now, the fuel injection is very precisely controlled by computers, but the air handling is mechanically controlled by either an overhead cam or valves and whatever, push rods and things like that. Someone recently, in the past couple of years, has come out with an electronically actuated valve for an engine that essentially applies the same level of precision and technology to the air mixture in the engine that fuel injection applies to the fuel. And this provides something like a 35% increase in fuel efficiency and reduces the number of parts in the engine, reduces the weight of the engine. It's a huge technological boom. And it also allows people who are driving cars to still take advantage of the gasoline infrastructure. Now, if a super efficient, high-performance engine like that is made into a hybrid electric car, it makes much more sense to mandate that a car company have a minimum fleet fuel economy average than to just say you have to make this product this way.
Exactly, and I'd even go back a step further and say, how is the electricity made?
Exactly. It's not a guarantee that it's more efficient. If you go to one of these, roadside electric charging stations, I look at a lot of Tesla bloggers and stuff like that, and people are posting pictures of they're at some electric charging station where there is a diesel engine powering a generator, making the electricity you're powering your car with. So it's far less efficient.
Or coal.
Right.
It's like when my kids were little, they'd say that they wanted something, and I'd say, that's really expensive, we're not going to get that. And one of them would say, well, no, come on, Dad, we'll just go over to the money store, which was an ATM.
Right.
They'd get some free money.
Phil Rizzuto for the money store.
That's basically not the way it works.
But do you remember those commercials,
Oh, yeah.
Phil Rizzuto? He sounds almost exactly like Fauci.
Oh God, don't get me started on Fauci. Again, going back through my notes, and I've hesitated. I didn't want to hammer in the very beginning because I wasn't as sure as I am now of my facts. But if you go back and read Bottle of Lies and read
Bad medicine.
Celia Farber's book, thing in Harper's in 2006, and some early reporting on the ways in which Fauci corrupted the war against HIV and AIDS, expanding it to falsely suggest that the general population was at risk.
Right.
And to then rush the creation not only of the Global Fund, but of Unitate and all these other things, the Clinton Foundation, to sprinkle over $100 billion of aid into nations that had no health systems, certainly killing people, and possibly altering the immune responses of these populations, but notably African and dark-skinned populations around. The same idiot who did all that is this idiot.
Yeah, keep him in charge.
Yeah, and who's now 80. Now, I got nothing. My dad turns 95 soon. I think age is great, and some people who manage to stay sane, which would exclude the potato head POTUS.
Fauci is
80.
pretty with it. For
I don't
80.
think he's with it at all.
I think he's deliberately lying.
No, but in the beginning, he lost me. Oh, you could go on a Tinder date. That's fine.
Well, Barry Diller probably gave him $100 to say that.
But seriously, that's something you'd want to think about doing if you were an Olympian.
I'm not going to consult an 80-year-old dick
He's probably
about something like that.
right, but you know what I'm saying? It's just so far away from being. You tell a little kid, "Oh, sure, why don't you go sledding on US 80? Go down the embankment, and don't worry, the cars will get out of your way." I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Some kids might need that advice.
Now here's Murray Street.
Oh yeah.
So what was the address?
We're almost out of data.
Oh,
That's
boy.
okay. We'll keep going until that happens. Murray Street. So right here on Murray and Church.
Where is that? How far away are we from Murray and Church, Jason?
We're on it.
I know.
But where's the building? Can't really see it from here. So it's up over that way. But right around here is where that Pratt & Whitney engine was found. And there are a number of dumb people who think that it was placed there
Oh, sure.
by individuals
Elves.
from a nation in the Middle East who they claim were dancing and driving engines in. I mean, the notion that somebody would stage an engine on the street in the middle of that chaos is so implausible. I was down here just a few hours after the building collapsed. I didn't get this close to the site, but even further away than this. There was so much exactly pandemonium. You could not have gotten a van through there, and it's just not even a plan that anyone would make because you would never anticipate that you could. You can see the engine shooting off of the plane when the plane hits the building. The issue is it's not the type of engine that is normally affixed to that type of United Airlines aircraft.
Right, and so we were talking on the walk down before we went on air about, and stressing, I'm not holding myself out as a 9/11 expert, but I have had assignments long back selling airlines, and in the process of doing that, traveled extensively to the maintenance facilities, seen things that ordinary people don't get to see about airlines. And my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, when an airplane takes off, a commercial airliner on a transatlantic flight, it doesn't assume midway that it's going to stop at the local gas station and refuel. I mean, it's got aviation fuel in there, not only for the length of the flight,
but in case there's a delay and it has to go somewhere else.
So it's chock-a-block full with fuel an hour out, 45 minutes out from the takeoff, if they took off where they say they took off.
Right.
And so if you were to do an experiment where you took a plane like that, obviously you wouldn't put people in it, but you took a plane, assume it had cargo in it as well, and you just blew it up, how big of an explosion would result? Maybe because the plane crash landed it didn't ignite the way it did. Maybe the fire didn't happen or whatever. I don't know. But I would have thought that the fireball would be a lot bigger than what I watched. And maybe there's some excellent reasons for it. I don't know. Maybe there's safety systems, or I don't know. But watching as I did last night, and enough time has passed that I could watch it, and they didn't show the first time I was watching early, 20 years ago. I don't think I saw a video of bodies dropping off buildings.
Oh, I saw that for
Did you?
sure.
Oh, I didn't notice it, or I didn't want to look for it. But I mean, they were just cascading off the buildings.
I have a friend who worked for ABC News at the time, and he said they had such graphic footage of that he ran to the bathroom and threw up, and they didn't put any of it to air.
Well, it's good for them for not. But so going back into all that, now we've between the idiotic things that W did, and then lowering interest rates to the
Suddenly
floor.
he's a hero.
He's not a hero in my book. He's a piece of
They
shit.
say anything against Trump, and people suddenly like him. They've forgotten he's the idiot who started this whole mess.
Right, and he is one of these. I've walked near him. I've never met him. Of course, I know.
Could you smell the stupid?
It's worse than that. It's the combination of arrogance, high arrogance,
Right.
and low intelligence. And he's apparently one-on-one. He can be charming, right? In theory, but so maybe Mengele was charming one-on-one for all
Right.
we know. But you don't get to say, well, I almost successfully bankrupted the United States of America, but I give a good
He's a nice
chat.
guy. Yeah, he can
He's
make
a
a
nice
good
guy.
martini.
He's a member of the Union Club. I mean, making that up. He's not. Anyway,
George W. Bush is thankful that we have Joe Biden because it means he's no longer the stupidest guy to ever be president. He's
Yeah,
been
I mean,
supplanted.
Dan Quayle is looking smart in comparison. Dan Quayle.
What happened to Dan Quayle?
I don't know. I mean, he's rich, so he probably just played golf for the rest of his life.
So Charles, here we go. I don't know, maybe this building will do something to disrupt the broadcast, but this phone is getting close to low on data.
All
I think it gave me a message saying 750 megabytes, so hopefully that'll take us back to the...
Whenever you want to end, Jason. You just,
Well, 33 Thomas, this is the building that allegedly contains the PRISM system that listens to all the trunk lines or whatever, all these phone calls going out, data, internet data, everything gets captured in there. No windows. It's a very strange...
that building was built quite a long time ago, I believe.
I thought the 70s.
Well, that's quite a long time ago. That's
Well,
50 years ago. Almost.
Right.
It's about the length of time that Joe Biden has been creating the problems he's now going to try to solve.
It's unbelievable. I wanted to ask our new friend about how he felt seeing Joe Biden and all those guys. He was in the Army. He wasn't in Afghanistan. I had an opportunity to have a short conversation with two people that were in Afghanistan. I mean, if you don't know somebody, you just strike up a conversation on the street. I don't know how deep they're going to get into their truth. So we had some radio interference. Yeah, I don't know what the point of the pimped out kid is, but
It's like pimping out one of those.
Think about that, Charles. You kill those kids. Just imagine one cousin, one friend, one brother. Now you've got potentially some extremely resourceful person who just decides they're going to dedicate the rest of their life to destroying the United States.
Well, that's the premise of many of these movies. Indeed, that London has fallen. That's the exact premise. There was a drone strike on a wedding reception in this movie, and up years later, the father and the others who were hurt in the drone strike destroy London, and nearly kill the President of the United States on air. I mean, that's a movie, obviously. But,
yeah, but someone's thinking about that.
Yeah. So here,
Well, it's been a good broadcast. It's usually helpful for me to end it before it runs out of data.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, let's just see if there's any questions from people because it is still working. Buffer, somebody says, right, but it should be back now. Well, I guess we just have another. The sun's going down. Climate change, right? That's because we're near the end of the summer, Charles. This is the very last few days of summer here.
Indian summer.
Right, and I do recommend that place, Roxy. I like it.
Yeah, you've just made it harder for yourself to get a table.
Oh, I don't know about that. It's It's a hotel mostly, but the downstairs they have a nice restaurant with live music, quiet, nice jazz kind of live music, piano.
Well, in the summer of 1974, I used to walk from the village down to Battery Park and back every day because I was trying to
long
save as much money as I could. And I was 18, and I was wearing a suit. As a
White privilege street.
yeah, exactly. I had a desk job as a proofreader at Simpson Thatcher, and it was interesting. Summer of '74, I remember. That's Nixon resigning. That's a lot of drama.
Oh yeah.
And me getting to sit in the lunchroom with all these lawyers, medium-level lawyers, partners, hearing them talk about what they thought. Careful, Jason.
What they think.
But I remember walking back and forth as I must have done 100, 120 times each way. This was so run down,
Yeah.
this whole area.
Well, it's improved a lot. All right, so listen, Charles, it's getting quite windy and noisy,
Okay.
and we're running out of data on the phone, so I want to make sure everybody gets the full broadcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Another in the numerous broadcasts here on this 20-year commemoration of September 11th. Don't forget to check out the co-host channels. It's the best way to stay up to date with all the live streams from every show on Crowdsource the Truth, even as social engineers attempt to strike the channel. The other thing that people can do that's super helpful is to become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And Charles, we'll see everybody on Wednesday. Thanks
Very
for
good.
tuning